When the moon enters Scorpio, relationships stop being comfortable and start being honest. This energy exposes the hidden wound beneath attraction, attachment, and emotional reactions. What surfaces now isn't here to hurt you, it's here to be healed. If you're here, it's because something inside you already knows this moment matters. You may not have words for it yet, but you can feel it. That subtle tightening in the chest, the sudden clarity about a connection, the emotional memories resurfacing without warning. This isn't chaos, this is initiation. Scorpio moon energy doesn't whisper, it reveals. It pulls the curtain back on emotional dynamics you've outgrown, patterns you've tolerated, and truths your intuition has been circling for a long time. And if this message found you at the exact moment you needed language for what you're feeling, stay with me. Not because I have answers for you, but because this moment is already activating something ancient inside you. This is not about prediction, it's about recognition. Under this moon, emotions don't rise gently, they emerge with gravity. You may notice reactions that surprise you, feelings that don't fit the present moment but demand to be acknowledged anyway. Scorpio governs emotional memory, energetic bonds, and unspoken contracts we've made with others and with ourselves. So when the moon moves here, it illuminates what's been living beneath the surface of your awareness. Not to overwhelm you, but to show you where your power has been leaking. You might feel pulled to revisit old conversations in your mind, drawn to understand why certain people still have emotional weight in your field, or suddenly aware that something you once called love was actually survival. This isn't regression, it's revelation. Scorpio doesn't ask you to be fearless, it asks you to be honest about what you've been carrying. And honesty, in this energy, is a form of emotional sovereignty. Attraction under a Scorpio moon isn't about chemistry, it's about resonance with unhealed places. You may begin to notice that certain emotional triggers aren't random, they're doorways, leading back to moments where your needs weren't met, your boundaries weren't honored, or your intuition was overridden. This lunar shift highlights the difference between desire and dependency, between connection and entanglement. You might realize that some attachments formed not from alignment, but from shared pain, that some emotional bonds were created in moments when you needed safety, not expansion. And this realization doesn't come with judgment. It comes with clarity, because Scorpio energy doesn't ask you to cut ties recklessly. It asks you to see clearly, so that your choices are no longer unconscious. What's surfacing now is information, and information, when integrated, becomes freedom. This moon is not here to destabilize you, it's here to train you. Spiritual sovereignty isn't about bypassing emotions, it's about remaining present inside them without giving your power away. Scorpio teaches mastery through depth, through staying with sensation long enough to hear its message, without letting it define your identity. You may notice moments where you pause before reacting, where awareness slips in between stimulus and response. That pause is everything. It's evidence that your nervous system is learning something new, that your emotional body is no longer running the show alone. This is how timelines shift, not through dramatic external change, but through internal recalibration. And as this moon continues its passage, you're being shown where your emotional authority actually lives. Not in control, not in suppression, but in conscious presence. Under a Scorpio moon, the past doesn't resurface to trap you. It returns to be recontextualized. Memories may rise unexpectedly, old emotional scenes replaying in your mind, not with the same charge, but with a strange neutrality, even clarity. This is significant. You're not being dragged backward. You're standing in a higher vantage point, looking down at something you once survived. Scorpio energy dissolves emotional amnesia. It reminds you of what you endured, not to reopen wounds, but to show you how far your awareness has traveled. And as these memories surface, notice what's different now. You're not smaller inside them. You're not lost in them. That shift alone signals a timeline adjustment. You are no longer the version of you who needed to stay silent, agreeable, or emotionally accommodating just to feel safe. The moon is revealing that truth gently but unmistakably. During this lunar passage, intuition doesn't arrive as a sudden realization or a dramatic inner voice. It arrives as atmosphere, as sensation, as a subtle internal shift that changes how certain thoughts land in your body. You may notice that some ideas suddenly feel heavy, not wrong, just misaligned. Others feel strangely calm, even when they point toward uncertainty. This is important. Under a Scorpio moon, intuition speaks through the nervous system before it ever reaches the mind. It communicates through tension, release, warmth, stillness, and inner resistance. Not to confuse you, but to bypass old mental filters that once distorted your truth. You might feel drawn to pause more often, to sit with a feeling before naming it, to delay reaction, not out of fear, but out of awareness. These pauses are not emptiness. They are download windows. Scorpio energy opens access to deeper emotional intelligence, the kind that doesn't need logic to validate itself. You may sense when a conversation is energetically complete, even if no closure was spoken. You may know when a connection has shifted, without any external event to explain it. This is not imagination. It's perception refining itself. As emotional noise clears, intuitive signals become more precise. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and begin feeling, "What aligns now?" That shift changes everything. You may also notice synchronicities, not dramatic signs, but quiet confirmations, repeating themes, words you hear more than once, a sentence that stays with you long after it's spoken. These aren't instructions, they're reflections, mirrors showing you where your awareness already is. And perhaps most subtly, you may feel a growing trust in your internal timing, less urgency to decide, less pressure to act, more confidence in waiting until something settles into clarity. This is Scorpio's gift, not foresight, but depth of discernment, not prediction, but energetic literacy. Right now, your intuition isn't asking you to leap. It's training you to sense when movement is real and when it's just habit. That skill will outlast this moon, and it will quietly change how you choose from this point forward. There is a moment under this moon, subtle, easily missed, where a choice appears. It doesn't arrive as a dramatic crossroads. It shows up in ordinary interactions. A conversation where you don't explain yourself. A trigger that doesn't pull you under. An emotional surge that passes without you attaching a story to it. That moment is a portal, not a place you go, but a state you access. This is where emotional alchemy happens, where intensity transforms into insight, where power returns to the present moment. Scorpio energy trains you to stay conscious inside emotional depth, not to escape it and not to drown in it. And each time you choose awareness over reaction, you stabilize a new energetic baseline. That's how sovereignty forms, quietly, consistently. Scorpio governs endings, but not the kind that arrive with chaos or sudden loss. These endings are quiet. They unfold internally, often without announcement, long before the outer world reflects them. Under this moon, emotional contracts begin to dissolve. These are the invisible agreements you didn't consciously sign. To stay available, to keep understanding, to hold space longer than your spirit could sustain. You may feel them loosening now, not with anger, not with grief, but with a deep, unmistakable sense of completion. You might notice that certain dynamics no longer pull at you the way they once did. Messages don't trigger the same reaction. Memories don't carry the same charge. The emotional hook simply isn't there. This is not numbness, it's integration. Scorpio rebirth doesn't rip attachments away, it neutralizes them. It removes the emotional charge so the lesson can remain, while the pain releases. Some connections existed to show you where your boundaries were porous. Others taught you how deeply you could merge, love, and feel. And some were mirrors, reflecting wounds you were ready to outgrow. Their purpose was never permanence, it was initiation. As these contracts expire, you may feel an unfamiliar spaciousness, a quiet where emotional noise once lived. At first, that space can feel disorienting. Who am I without this pattern? Who am I without this role? Scorpio answers not with words, but with presence. You are the awareness that remains when the attachment dissolves. You are the consciousness that survived every ending that once felt unbearable. This is where rebirth begins, not with excitement, but with neutrality, with emotional honesty stripped of urgency, with truth that doesn't demand action, only acknowledgement. And as you release what no longer binds you, something subtle returns. Energy, clarity, choice. Not the rush of a new beginning, but the steadiness of no longer carrying what was never meant to be held forever. This is death without destruction, rebirth without force, and it marks the end of cycles that once defined you, without erasing the wisdom they left behind. One of the quiet revelations of this Scorpio moon is this: your power was never in how deeply you felt, it's in how clearly you see now. Emotional maturity doesn't look dramatic, it looks calm in situations that once consumed you. It feels like understanding without needing validation. You may notice you're less interested in being understood and more interested in being aligned, less willing to explain your inner world to those who can't meet it. This isn't emotional shutdown, it's discernment. Scorpio energy refines perception. It shows you that not everyone deserves access to your depth, and that depth is sacred, not owed. And in this clarity, your energy stabilizes. You stop leaking emotion into places that can't hold it. You begin to feel whole inside yourself. That's not withdrawal, that's self-trust. There's a misconception about transformation, that it announces itself with clarity, urgency, or dramatic relief. But the timeline forming under this Scorpio moon doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives as quiet recognition. You may notice that certain internal battles simply aren't happening anymore. Thought loops that once demanded resolution lose momentum. Emotional reactions that used to define your day dissolve before they fully form. This isn't because you forced growth, it's because the lesson completed itself. The new timeline doesn't feel elevated in the way you imagined. It feels grounded, neutral, steady. And at first, that steadiness can feel unfamiliar, even unsettling. When chaos was once normal, peace can feel empty. But this quiet isn't absence, it's coherence. You're no longer expending energy managing emotional turbulence that wasn't meant to be permanent. Your nervous system is recalibrating to a reality where stability is allowed. Under this moon, alignment doesn't demand effort. It removes friction. You may sense that old struggles no longer carry relevance, that situations which once felt karmic now feel optional. Not because they resolved, but because you're no longer vibrating at the frequency that sustained them. This is what timeline shifts actually feel like. Not a leap forward, but a release sideways. Not urgency, but inevitability. You may find yourself less compelled to explain your process, less driven to justify your choices, more comfortable letting others misunderstand you if it preserves your inner alignment. That's not withdrawal, that's self-consistency. As this quieter timeline stabilizes, you may feel a subtle trust returning, not in outcomes, but in yourself, in your capacity to meet whatever unfolds without abandoning your center. The future forming now doesn't feel heavy because it's not built on unresolved emotion. It's built on clarity, and clarity doesn't shout, it settles. This is how rebirth sustains itself, not through momentum, but through resonance that no longer needs to prove it exists. Spiritual sovereignty is not about control. It's about coherence. It's the moment when your thoughts, emotions, intuition, and actions begin moving in the same direction, without inner conflict. Under this Scorpio moon, you are being trained to trust your inner signals without overanalyzing them, to honor emotional truth without dramatizing it, to hold boundaries without armor. This is advanced emotional intelligence, and it's being activated through lived experience, not theory. You are learning that depth doesn't require suffering, that awareness doesn't need intensity to be real, and that your energy, when fully owned, becomes self-protecting. This is what it means to stand in your own field. Before we close this moment, I want to say something directly to you. As I was putting this message together, I kept thinking about how many people are feeling this shift without having words for it. That's why I shared it the way I did. Not to tell you what to believe, but to sit with you inside the awareness that's already unfolding. This is Vicky Vishnoi, by the way. And if this felt less like a video and more like a conversation you needed tonight, that wasn't accidental. You're not late. You're not broken. You're responding to a deeper level of truth inside yourself. If this message helped you name what's been moving through you, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you noticed shifting while you listened. I read them, and they matter more than you think. We're all learning how to stay present with depth without losing ourselves in it. So take this awareness with you. Let it integrate naturally. You don't need to force the next step. I'm Vicky Vishnoi. This is Mindful Awakening. And until the next cosmic crossing, stay present, stay sovereign.